Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be doing a review of Holochain. This is one that I saw a few months ago, and then now with the ERC20 token being released and released onto exchanges, I thought I'd get back and do a more in-depth review. And it's a pretty complex project, so I'm going to probably try to hit the keynotes and leave some amazing YouTube videos also in the show notes below. So first, let's just go over the market overview and talk some numbers. So Holochain, right? It was just released in the past couple weeks. So somewhere around May 1st, it was released. Markets, you got IDEX and Hotbit that are currently the leaders in trading. And then it's a rank 116 coin, market cap roughly around 150 million. And we have a low price point of basically 1/10 of a US cent, which is great, right? Because a lot of people want a lower price point so that they can own more. It's much easier to be able to say, hey, okay, a coffee is this much, as opposed to where Bitcoin is just so large now in value, and they never move to millibits or any other form, that it's like, okay, no one wants to say, okay, this coffee's, costs you 0.0001 Bitcoin, like that. No one wants to do it that way. And there's a psychological barrier too for a lot of people who are getting in this space, realizing that it's like, oh, I can only buy a fraction of something and a very small fraction of that. So this is nice from a psychological standpoint. When people are going to be transacting in these micro transactions, this makes it much easier. So awesome stuff. Let's go into the ICO. And so they were pretty determined to do what's they were calling an ethical ICO, which is great, right? Not doing the ICOs that sell out in 30 seconds, a minute, where it's just, a few big whales buying up all the supply, because that doesn't foster inclusiveness in the community. And you need to have a good, strong community going forward. If you want to create real value over time, you got to have people who are going to be vouching for you, who are really excited about the product that you're putting out, and disseminating all of that to other individuals. So the co-founder even authored a little Medium post on launching ethical ICOs, and it's a great read. I'll link it below. And just getting over the hurdles that it takes to launch something ethically. And so what they did was they had a multi-day ICO with caps of how much an individual could purchase, which is great. They did know your customer laws and all the other stuff for whitelisting, which is great. And they were very transparent with everything. The development fund took 25% of the total purchased after the ICO. So the development fund is 25% of the current coins, the current total supply. So all over, really like that they're spreading it out, letting more people in, being inclusive, because obviously it's creating more value. Another cool thing was they did a Indiegogo campaign to actually launch their hardware. So they already actually have hardware, and this hardware will be shipped out this month in May. And so these were to sell holoports, which are actually kind of a plug and play host, where you can actually earn holo coins from it. It's essentially hosting data and therefore getting paid in holo coins. And it's just plug and play. And what they were really doing this for was to measure the engagement of the community, which is really awesome. Obviously, they exceeded their goals by quite a bit, and they also had a lot of like dev perks in here as well. So you can see there was like dev combos where they're actually going to be having educational workshops for people to get into, which is absolutely awesome, right? To be able to train people up to build applications on your platform, and really caring for the community. Like, you can really tell that these guys, they care a lot about what they're creating, and that's always a great sign. So also, they did it for another good reason, is to have a great foundation when they're starting out, right? They're having basically all these things that are sold are going to be dedicated to hosting, instead of, me having my gaming computer and it's running the application sometimes and hosting sometimes. They are selling these things, and they're going to be able to actually have a dedicated foundation when they start. So when all their applications go live, they're not going to face the issues that other projects might, if they're just allowing anyone to get on board, and not really have kind of skin in the game, so to say. So that's a great idea, and they seem to have a lot of business knowledge and their whole planning of this ICO and this launch. So let's get into it. What is Holochain though? It's basically they're trying to create what they say a more human internet. So that's pretty cool. Right at the end of the day, they're trying to create distributed computing and applications, right? Become decentralized like every other blockchain. Well, I should say most blockchain projects. They're trying to create distributed computing and applications, and in a better form. But this is not a blockchain. Instead, it's a framework to build peer-to-peer applications, and they're using distributed hash tables. So essentially, every user has their own tamper-proof blockchain essentially for each smart contract that is communicating with one another, and they're running in parallel. And so this is kind of a little summary of what it is. It's more complex than that. Of course, there's tons of YouTube videos from Holo itself that I'll link to below that are great. But essentially, they're trying to create distributed validation. So if we distribute the validation instead of having one central point of validation, like Bitcoin with its 10-minute block intervals, and that mined block is the validation for this period, we get away from having such a TPS limits. Like Bitcoin can only do about 3 to 7 transactions per second. So we get away from that by distributing the validation. So this actually really reminds me of a DAG, a directed acyclical graph, in the ways that representatives and nodes communicate to one another and kind of carry out all these transactions. And then when there's an issue, there's a response to the issue. So that's obviously great. New technology, though, of course, always a little worrisome when you're dealing with a lot of money. So we'll get into that a little bit below. But one of the other cool things is that a lot of these, the leads and the founders of this project, they've actually been working on this for over a decade. And they were working on a project before that, this kind of evolved into, called Metacurrency, and more specific Scepter. And it's re-engineering computers to run like biological systems. And so that computers would essentially have evolution, so to say. And that's pretty amazing. So when you look at it, like they've been working on this for over a decade, and this is kind of the evolution that it's taking, that this isn't like a flash in the pan kind of project. So of course, with anything, though, that's not using proof of work or proof of stake, my fear is, highly scaled coordinated attacks on the network after it gets larger. Will it be able to defend against hacks? As we know, Bitcoin and SHA-256 is one of the most safe systems that you can use, one of the most safe hashing algorithms, because it's basically the probability of you hacking that address is 1 followed by 77 zeros. Like, that's a huge number. So the probability of you getting into that is just non-existent. And that's why, and it's been battle tested, right? It's been over 9 years since Bitcoin's been out. There's a tremendous amount of value for anyone if they could hack it, right? They would make a ton of money. And yet it's not been able to. So with these new technologies, obviously they're very promising, but always want to be skeptical of these technologies too, because hackers are smart. And if they get in, and then they destroy the whole project. But these guys seem to be very on the up and up with their technology and everything that they're doing. So that was Holochain. And then Holo is being built on Holochain. So Holo is this network application to incentivize hosting systems. And that's being built by the team. And they're building applications like similar to like Twitter and Airbnb on it to really showcase Holochain's power and all of the abilities of it. So they're creating that to showcase it. Obviously, right, they're teaching other devs to do the same so that, they can come out with this, basically basic functioning internet here pretty soon, which will be awesome to see. And the Holo network, right, is going to use Holo Fuel, and it's going to be an asset backed by computing power, which is really cool. And so they have a more complex system of accounting for moving these coins and everything. And one really cool thing is they actually have a white paper for their mutual credit cryptocurrency, and addressing how the structure of their accounting system will work, which is really good. And again, right, they're putting a lot of thought, time, and effort into how this is all going to work. So that's, again, something to really note as a high point. Along the lines with that, they're saying that this is pretty much feeless transactions, and they can do millions, if not billions, of transactions per second due to this distributed hash table. So there won't be any bottlenecks like there are in proof of work, or even some proof of stakes. So that's a great thing to note. Moving on from there, we'll go into the team. So the team, they have a very large team. They have 31 people for this size of project. That's awesome, right? They're covering all of their bases. The co-founder, Arthur Brock, absolute rock star in this space. So he's actually been, he first started out working in like AI and natural language computing, which is absolutely amazing. Really smart dude, really passionate about kind of a new form of internet and being inclusive with all the developments. And then again, he's been working for the past decade on creating a better, more inclusive internet that is ultimately distributed and then decentralized. So this flows right into kind of the next iteration of his metacurrency project. Another person who's really kind of shown, really impressed me, I should say, is this guy, Matt. And he is their communications director, and you'll see him on a lot of YouTube videos, and he's just incredibly knowledgeable about the product. He's been working on it for quite some time, but extremely articulate with delivering the message. And he's got a JD from Berkeley. So this guy's obviously smart. It's a very competitive law school to be getting into. And everything he's done really has a great track record and everything. And again, right, working on that metacurrency project for quite some time and getting into this iteration. So you'll see him a lot on YouTube videos, and I'm overall just very impressed with how he's conveying his message. And that's a huge thing for the cryptocurrency space, is to have, a very good spokesperson who can get out there and really disseminate the correct information to others. So other than that, I want to talk about the team in the state of where they are. And so we talked about it before, but they've been writing code. I mean, they're in their alpha stage already. They have hardware being released this month, and they're really shooting for a high quality foundation of their network right off the bat. And so that's a huge thing that the team's already delivered on, and being so kind of put together. And that's a really great thing from their team. And I'm sure it also has to do with that they have enough people to really kind of do the work, which is unfortunate for a lot of cryptocurrency projects, is they just don't have the manpower, or I should just say the individuals, to really get out there and do the work. Another thing I want to touch on is for their marketing, right? Again, they have people to get out there and do it. They still seem pretty early on when you look at the social networks. So Reddit only has about 1,000 subscribers, Twitter about 6,000, and Facebook 2,000. So if we're looking at it from a perspective of like their outreach, it's not very large. If you go and you look at the YouTube videos, most of them have hundreds of views, and then some have like a few thousand. So really this hasn't been spread all that much, and that might be because they don't want it to. They're waiting for their main net to launch. They seem to have everything planned out very well, so getting in now could be very beneficial. I do believe that this is probably going to be one of the better projects for 2018 and 2019 going on, because they are so meticulous with everything that they're doing. And that's, at the end of the day, what you really need is you need a team that's going to be able to execute. They've got also their YouTube page, amazing content. I mean, they have tons of Q&As, tons of breakdowns explaining what Holochain is, and pretty much anything that you can think of. The last time I actually had so much information on a given project that it was like hard to digest, and I had to do it over days, was Bitcoin. I mean, I have not seen as much in-depth knowledge details as I have since Bitcoin. They also have amazing papers. I mean, it's right here. they have their white paper, as every project should, nice brief overview, but they also have a white paper on how they are going to be doing their accounting system. And then they have a green paper on the really in-depth details of like their technical specs. And then also they have how they're going to scale, another paper on basically how they're going to scale. So they've been incredibly on the ball with creating great content, really answering questions with a lot of people, and really developing the community, because getting that information out and really being on the forefront of being there for your community, that's going to create tremendous value. And they've got enough people to really support the growth of the business, branding, and communications. So overall, I think this is definitely going to be one of the top coins. Hopefully everything goes well for them with their new technology, but I'm sure it will after all the hard work and the intelligent people that they got on the team. So thanks for joining me. Of course, it's not financial advice in any shape, form, or way. And I'm glad to be making this video. I will see you all next time for news or a coin review. See ya. Bye.